Oh gosh, look what just arrived. Okay, so last week I kind of did a crash course on my lighting setup and showed the behind the scenes of how I set everything up to get a high quality look for my videos. But in this video, I kind of want to iterate or reiterate on some things because there were some things that I left out, and this video is going to be the one video that you want to reference if you're trying to create high quality looking videos, whether it's YouTube videos or short form content or TikToks or whatever it is, the same rules apply. This is a big light, and you probably don't need a light this big, but we'll show this in a second. I think that will work. So this is the lighting setup that I normally use, but there's a few key things that you need to know with the settings on my camera before you can get a look like this. So whenever I'm shooting video, you'll notice a few things. One, my white balance is set to, oop, it went away, hold on. My white balance is set to 5600 Kelvin, which is daylight white balance. Now, because I'm also shooting with a Canon camera in C-Log 3, my base ISO is 800. So the common mistake that a lot of people make is just to set the ISO as low as possible. Now that's a rookie mistake if you're coming from photography to video, because with photography, 100 ISO or 200 ISO is fine. So you need to look up your camera and the color space that you're shooting in so that you're shooting at the right ISO. So now when we get to the lights, what am I shooting with here? This is a 60 watt light and I'm using a softbox diffuser. But let's change that out and I'll show you some different options. So you always want to diffuse the light because a direct light doesn't look good. Actually, let me take it off and I'll show you. So without a softbox, this is what it looks like. It looks terrible. You know, this is the softbox I'm using. It's pretty big. At a minimum, you want to use an umbrella. And this one's kind of a little bit small, but better than an umbrella is a softbox. This is a small softbox. Okay, so at the small end of the spectrum, sorry, there's construction in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. We're just gonna deal with it. At the small end of the spectrum, you could get a 45 or a half meter, like a 1.5 foot softbox. That's what that one looks like. It's a much smaller softbox than the big 32-inch one. The bigger the softbox, the more diffused, the softer, and the better looking the quality of light is gonna be. And I've tried softboxes from all different companies. Find one that works for you and is within your budget, and ideally, the bigger you can go, the better the light is gonna look. Optionally, you could add a fill light. Now, a fill light, if my key light is on one side, the fill light is gonna be on the opposite side. Now you don't need a fill light. I'm actually not using one, but I have one set up there. Let me just turn it on. So now we have that fill light, and you might notice that the shadows are a little bit softer. So there's the after, there's the before. Now, one thing you'll notice is the third light, or actually the second light I'm using, is this edge light here. And I've kind of just set up that nice tall tube light on top of a box, and it's giving me this like edge. Like you can kind of see there's a highlight here. There's a little bit of a highlight on the edge of me, and that just helps define my profile and separate me from the background. So we're obviously shooting on a nice camera lens at f2.8, so we get that bokeh or that blurry background effect, but then we go one step further and add that edge light or that rim light or that hair light, whatever you want to call it, and that just separates you and gives you a little bit of a pop off the background. And then the last kind of like essential third part of this whole lighting setup is just background lights. Now, again, I'm using a tube light. You don't have to use a tube light. I'll turn that off. That's what it looks like without it, but you could use something as small as like this Aperture MC light. Now, it's not as bright. Hold on. I don't know, it might not be bright enough. It's kind of, hold on, let me close the curtains. Let me close the blinds. Can you see it? I think you can see it just a little bit coming in from over here. So before I had part of the window open, so maybe it's a little bit too bright in here. If I adjust the softbox, you can kind of see that little light just giving me a little bit of something. Now, of course, this also depends on the size of your space. If you're shooting in a really tight space, you can use smaller lights. If you're shooting in a bigger space, you're gonna need slightly bigger lights. One light that's kind of like a bonus light are practical lights. Practical lights are just normal lights. Like this guy up here is just a light bulb from IKEA, and it's just like a really warm tungsten. It's just a normal light bulb. It's just set up there. I've got another one set up there, and it just adds a bit of warmth to my scene or to my background. So key light, fill light, which I've turned off right now, edge light, background light. Let's put that tube light back. I really like these tube lights. Yeah, you can tell with the bigger light source, you're gonna get a much larger spill. So you could get less expensive, like these guys are just kind of a no-name Amazon special, and they're like, I don't know, 60, 70 bucks. I could do the same thing with this blue light. And so you can see with that smaller light, we're not getting as much of a spill, but more importantly, that full-size light will last me like 2+ hours, where that small light on 100% maybe will last me 20 minutes. So I'll link all of these products down in the description so you can find one that is in alignment with your budget. Okay, so before we finish, a few final recommendations on some different lights that you can try. These were the first lights that I ever used to light my videos. These are the newer 660 LED panels, and they're just a flat panel. There's no diffuser, so the light is gonna be a little bit more direct and a little bit more harsh. Now, the problem with these lights is that, yes, you can get them for like 100 bucks or maybe like 90 bucks, but they're nowhere near as bright as even the 60-watt light that we're shooting on now. This is the light we're actually shooting on now. It's the Amaran 60X or 60D. These are kind of like what I would recommend as your starter package. Whether you go with the Amaran Aperture 60 lights or something like the Godox SL60W. The nice thing about the Aperture ones is that they're a lot smaller and you can fit them into smaller spaces. But again, it doesn't come with a softbox, so a softbox, at least something like this, is gonna be what you wanna get just to diffuse the lighting in your videos. Another thing I recommend is buying lights that are all within the same system. So right now, oh, that one's kind of fallen. So all the lights that I'm using right now are Aperture Amaran lights. And the great thing about keeping with one system is that all of these companies have different apps. Oh, this is heavy. Oh yes. So this is a very chunky light. I don't even know if I can show this to you. This is a light that if you have a big space, I gotta put it down. That's a power supply. That's like if you need to light up an entire studio space. Like, look how much bigger that LED chip is. But all of these lights, all of these companies, Nanlite, Aperture, Godox, they all have apps that if you plug the lights in, you can connect with like Bluetooth, you can turn the lights on and off, change the color temperature, the intensity, and set all these different scenes. And so if you're going to invest in a complete lighting setup, buy lights that are all from the same company. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful and learned something from it and learned how to set up your lights for your home studio, whether you're using lights or natural daylight or reflectors. Like, see, if I place this opposite of my key light, now I have a bounce light. Bring it in, it just fills out the shadows. One take, one try. But I'm curious to hear from you. What lights are your favorite? Which ones are you currently looking at or using in your at-home studio setup? If you learned anything from this, go ahead, leave that comment down below, hit the subscribe, and if you do, I'll see you in the next one. This should be the thumbnail. What do you think about that for a thumbnail?